Good day, sir. I'm Garcia Angeline, first reporter about multiperspectivity and the Cavite Mutiny. Multiperspectivity. Multiperspectivity is a way of looking at historical events, personalities, developments, culture, and societies from different perspectives. Multiperspectivity is muna siya ang mga pamaagi para ma-identify nato ang mga historical events or mga artifacts para makabulata kung unsa ang mga personalities sa mga sinauna, mga developments, cultures, ug mga panghitabo sa society. So multiperspectivity is mao'y naghatag og mga pananaw sa mga panghitabo sa mga past events there sa Pilipinas. And there are three cases in these lessons are essential events in Philippine history that could be seen to different vantage points. First is the Cavite Mutiny in 1872 paved the way for the Philippine Revolution. Second is the Cry of Rebellion in 1896 marked the revolutionary events that led to Philippine independence in 1898. And lastly, the Philippine-American War from 1899 to 1902 is the continuations of the revolution against Spain, now focused against the United States. The Cavite Mutiny in 1872 was the significant event that resulted the martyrdom of the three priests Mariano Gomez, Jose Burgos, and Jacinto Zamora. However, this event today became a controversy. It's because there are many primary sources and many point of view, and there are many conflicting stories. The documentations of Spanish historians Jose Montero y Vidal censored on how the event was an attempt to overthrow the Spanish government in the Philippines. And there are many accounts about the Cavite Mutiny. However, we are going to classify these accounts into two. Account from Spanish and account coming from Filipino. So we are trying to analyze of which accounts tell us of the truth about the Cavite Mutiny. The first Spanish account coming from Montero y Vidal. Sa account na ito na ipinalabas ni Montero that the primary cause of the Cavite Mutiny was the overthrow of the Spanish government. Klarong-klaro din sa kanyang sinabi that the Filipino were supported by the native clergy. Ang iyang gimin is si Father Gomez, Burgos ug Zamora. Kaya nga ito ang naging dahilan kung bakit at the end of the Cavite Mutiny, the three priests were executed. Diri nato makita sa Spanish na account ni Montero na ininawit si Father Jacinto Zamora sa Cavite Mutiny na sila daw yung nagsimula ng mga pagpupulong. Sila ang nag-organize about sa revolution, sumaong gipatay sila. The second Spanish account coming from Rafael Izquierdo. In this account, idinawit na naman ang native clergy na sila Priest Gumburza at mga native lawyers nga sila kuno ang utak ng Cavite Mutiny. Therefore, base sa dalawang account, klaro nga gipalabas nila that the reason of Cavite Mutiny was the abolitions of the privilege enjoyed by the workers of the Cavite Arsenal of not paying taxes. On of that, giving tribute kanang gitawag nilag forced labor ng binibigay ng mga Kastila. Because of this incident on February 17, 1872, the three priests Gumburza were executed. It was done in front of many Filipinos kasi gustong ipakita ng mga Espanyol that it was a threat to the Filipino to start revolution to move against the Spanish government. The execution of the three priests was done in public because the Spaniard wanted to treat the Filipinos not to conduct another revolution against the Spaniard government. Gusto sa mga Espanyol na kamatayon ang makita if they will commit another revolution. The first Filipino account coming from Pardo de Tavera. In this account of Tavera, that the incident was simply a mutiny done by the laborers of Cavite as a form of protest against the wrong leadership. The laborers were dissatisfied about the leadership of Governor Sherdo in their place, such as young abolitions of their privilege. According to Tavera, the Cavitanians were just protesting because the Governor Sherdo prohibited them to establish the School of Arts and Trades. Ang masaklap dito, the Spaniards, especially the friars, made use of the Cavite Mutiny to cement their dominance in our country. Kasi ang nangyari sa Central Madrid, there was this prohibition of the friars to interfere with the affairs of the civil government and of course, the affairs of education. So gusto sa mga friars na continuous yung kanilang pangibabaw in the matters of politics and in the matters of controlling the educational system of the Philippine island. The second Filipino account coming from placards. We tried to understand the real motivations of Caviteños in having that mutant that happened in 1872. Mauni siya ang mga pangandoy sa Pilipinos. Number 1, changes in tariff rates at customs and the methods of collection. Number 2, removal of surcharges on foreign importations. Number 3, reductions of export fees. Number 4, permission for foreigners to reside in the Philippines, buy real estate, enjoy freedom of worship, and operate commercial transport flying the Spanish flag. Number 5, establishment of an advisory council to inform the Minister of Overseas Affairs in Madrid on the necessary reforms to be implemented. Number 6, changes in primary and secondary education. Number 7, establishment of an institute of civil administrations in the Philippines, rendering unnecessary the sending home of short-term civil official every time there is a changes of ministry. Number 8, study of direct tax system. Number 9, violations of the tobacco monopoly. However, their terms ended when General Izquierdo arrived in Manila because General Izquierdo did not like to have the reform and his colonel did not want to give the reforms to the Filipinos. Because of course, the Spanish government, including the Spanish friars, wanted to continue their political and economic dominance in the Philippine island.
The cry of the rebellion in Pugadlawin marked the start of the Philippine Revolution in 1896, which eventually led to independence of the country in 1898. The Philippine Revolution, against over 300 years of Spanish rule, began with Andres Bonifacio, leader of the Katipunan, a secret revolutionary society that sought independence for the Philippines from Spanish colonial rule. In August 1896, in the city of Pugadlawin in Balintawak, now part of Quezon City, the Katipuneros led by Andres Bonifacio rose up in revolt by tearing up their cedulas, which became a sign of enslavement of the Filipinos. This event, called the Cry of Pugadlawin, officially regarded as the start of the Philippine Revolution against Spain with the use of violence and arms. After Bonifacio's death on May 10, 1897 in Maragondon, Cavite, General Emilio Aguinaldo continued the revolution. First cry of the Katipunan or unang sigaw. Ano ba ang ibig sabihin ng unang sigaw? Hindi yung umiyak noon or sumigaw noon. Ito ay unang pagtawag sa rebellion or unang sigaw ng pagtawag sa isang rebellion or cry or call for rebellion. Natuklasan ng Katipunan noong August 19, 1896. Originally, the term cry referred to the first clash between the members of Katipunan and the civil guards or Guardia Civil. The cry could also refer to the tearing up of cedulas, community tax certificates, in resistance to Spanish government. The cedula during the Spanish colonial period was an identification card and residence tax certificate that had to be carried at all times. A person who could not present his or her cedula could be arrested and imprisoned by the Guardia Civil. Several accounts provide differing dates and places for the cry of Pugadlawin. Oligario Diaz, who was an officer of the Spanish Guardia Civil, stated that the cry happened in Balintawak on August 25, 1896. Historian Teodoro Calao wrote in his 1925 book entitled The Filipino Revolution that the cry took place during the final week of August 1896 at Kangkong, Balintawak. Santiago Alvarez, a Katipunero and son of Mariano Alvarez, who was the leader of the Madiwang faction in Cavite, stated in 1927 that the cry happened at Bahay Toro, now in Quezon City, on August 24, 1986. Pio Valenzuela, Andres Bonifacio's close associates, declared in 1948 that the event took place on August 23, 1896 in Pugadlawin. Some of the apparent confusion about the place where it happened is in part due to the double meanings of the words Balintawak and Caloocan at the turn of the century. However, from 1908 until 1963, these events was officially recognized as having happened on August 26 in Balintawak. Ultimately, the Philippine government declared in 1963 a change from August 26 to August 23 in Pugadlawin, Quezon City. Gregoria de Jesus, Lakambini of the Katipunan and wife of Andres Bonifacio, Gregoria de Jesus. She became the keeper of the secret documents of the Katipunan. August 1896, Spanish soldiers wanted to arrest Gregoria de Jesus. She joined her husband in the mountains and shared adversities with him. In her account, the first cry happened near Caloocan on August 25, 1896. Ayon kay Gregoria de Jesus, may bahay o asawa ni Andres Bonifacio, ginanap ang unang sigaw noong August 25, 1896 sa Balintawak. Ano ba ang pangyayari sa first cry? Nandito yung pagpupulong, pagbibigay ng talumpati ni Andres Bonifacio at pinakamahalaga ay pagpunit ng sidula. Ito ay pinakamahalagang dokumento noong unang panahong Espanyol. Ang iba ay naguguluhan kung saan nga ba naganap ang unang sigaw o first cry, kung sa Balintawak ba o kaya sa Pugadlawin. May mga nagsabi na sa Balintawak, may iba naman na nagsabi na sa Pugadlawin. Kung saan ba talaga naganap ang unang sigaw o the first cry of rebellion, kung sa Balintawak ba o sa Pugadlawin, ang mahalaga ay gawa ng tama ng katipunan ng ating bansa para sa kalayaan.
Good day, sir, and everyone. My name is Hero Ilanan Garcia and I am Section Alpha. My topic is all about Philippine-American War or Insurrection. Philippine-American War or Insurrection. In 1898, the United States invaded the Philippines after Spain ceded the country to the U.S. President McKinley faced a dilemma in deciding what to do with the Philippines. After sa paglaban sa Spain and Philippines, the United States went to war with Spain, and the Americans destroyed the Spanish fleet in Manila Bay. So, President William McKinley interesado sa Pilipinas o gisurrender sa Spain ang Pilipinas sa United States when agreement between countries. Philippine-American War between the United States and Filipino revolutionaries from 1899 to 1902, an insurrection that may be seen as a continuation of the Philippine Revolution against Spanish rule. So, between American force and Filipino nationalists led by Emilio Aguinaldo, who sought independence rather than a change in colonial rules, and concerned that the Filipino incapable of self-rule and the fear that island another power such as a Germany or Japan. The Philippines are for the Filipinos. We are a virile race. We have never assimilated with our forefathers oppressors, and we are not likely to assimilate with you. The United States referred to the conflict from 1899 to 1902 as the Philippines Insurrection. So, previously referred to as the Philippines insurrection or insurgency by the United States, was an armed conflict between the First Philippine Republic and the United States that started on February 4, 1899 and ended on July 2, 1902. The Philippine-American War, the continuation of the struggle for independence, is not insurgency. To refer to it as the Philippine insurrection is to demote the memory of the Philippine Revolution, the struggle for independence, and the creation of the Filipino nation. When the United States, rather than acknowledging the Philippine Declaration of Independence, the war can be seen as the continuation of the modern Philippines struggle for independence that began in 1896 with the Philippines Revolution against Spain and ended in 1946 with the United States ceding sovereignty.
Good day, sir. Good day, classmates. My report is all about historical negationism. So, there are four parts of historical negationism. First, revisionism. The interpretation of a historical account, especially in light of new facts, evidence, or interpretation. Revisionism could be legitimate the work of professional historians, or illegitimate. Negationism mainly functions as propaganda. So, ang revisionism ay ito ang nagsasaysay sa mga bagong katotohanan, mga ebidensya o interpretasyon. Ang interpretasyon ito ay nagpapaliwanag o nagbibigay ng sariling pananaw. Ang revisionism ay isang lehitimo o ang pagtatanggap ng mga tao sa isang autoridad. Karaniwan ay ang pinapatupad na batas. Ang revisionism ay maaari ding hindi lehitimo. Second is negationism, the denial and distortion of the historical record, also known as illegitimate revisionism. Ang negationism daw o negationismo, ito ay ang pagtatanggi at pagbaluktot ng makasaysayang record. Tinatawag din itong hindi lehitimo. Third is radicalization. The action or process of causing someone to adopt a radical position on political or social issues. Ang radicalization ay ito ang aksyon o proseso. Ito rin ang nagpapatibay ng mga radikal. Ang radikal ito yung tumutukoy sa pag-aasam na magkaroon ng pagbabago. Ito ay maaring sa politikal, ekonomiya, paniniwala o kaugalian. The last is crony and cronyism. The appointment of friends and associates to positions of authority without regard for qualifications, giving them the power to further their interests and enrich themselves. Ang crony and cronyism daw, ito yung mga pagpili o paghirang ng mga kaibigan at kasama sa mga posisyon ng mga otoridad. Ang otoridad ay isang kapangyarihan na taglay ng isang individual o grupo para pamahalaan ang kaniyang nasasakupan. Ito rin ang nagbibigay ng kwalifikasyon at isinusulong ang kanilang mga interes at pagyamanin ang kanilang mga sarili. Historical negationism, also called denialism, is falsification or distortion of the historical record. It should not be conflated with historical revisionism, a broader term that extends to newly evidenced, fairly reasoned academic reinterpretation of history. In attempting to revise the past, illegitimate historical revisionism may use techniques inadmissible in proper historical discourse, such as presenting non-forged documents as genuine, inventing ingenious but implausible reasons for distrusting genuine documents, attributing conclusions to books and sources that report the opposite, manipulating sa statistical series to support the given point of view, and deliberately mistranslating text. Ang historical negationism ay tinatawag ding denialism. Ito yung mga pagpilit at pagbaluktot sa mga makasaysayang record. Ito yung gumagawa ng hindi lehitimong revisionismo sa kasaysayan, tulad ng pagpapakita ng mga kilalang peking dokumento o mga documents bilang tunay. Isa pa rito yung paggawa o pag-imbento ng mapanlikha ngunit hindi kapanipaniwalang dahilan para sa kawalan ng tiwala sa mga tunay na dokumento, at sadyang maling pagsasalin ng mga teksto at marami pang iba. So, some countries such as Germany have criminalized the negationist revision of certain historical events, while others take a more cautious position for various reasons such as protection of free speech. Other mandate negationist views such as California and Japan, where school children are explicitly prevented from learning about the California genocide and Japanese war crimes respectively. That's all. Thank you, sir.
My name is Wilmer M. Julagon from Group 4, and my topic is Rizal sa aking mga kababata. In 1969, the then 8-year-old Jose Rizal wrote his first Tagalog poem entitled Sa Aking Mga Kabata.
Kapag ka ang bayay sadyang umiibig, sa langit, salitang kaloob ng langit, sanlang kalayaan, nasa ring masapit, katulad ng ibong nasa himpapawid. Pagkat ang salita'y isang kahatulan, sa bayan, sa nayot, mga kaharian. At ang isang tao'y katulad, kabagay, ng alinmang likha noong kalayaan. Ang hindi magmahal sa kanyang salita, mahigit sa hayop at malansang isda. Kaya ang marapat, pagyamanin kusa, na tulad sa inang tunay na nagpala. Ang wikang Tagalog, tulad din sa Latin, sa Ingles, Kastila, at salitang anghel. Sapagkat ang poong maalam tumingin, ang siyang nagagawad, nagbibigay sa atin. Ang salita natin tulad din sa iba na may alfabeto at sariling letra, na kaya na walay dinatnan ng sigwa ang lunday sa lawa noong dakong una.
Ang tulang sa aking mga kababata na ito ay patungkol sa iisang linghawi nating mga Pilipino na ating ginagamit dito sa ating bansa, na kailangan nating tangkilikin, mahalin at pag-aralin ito hanggang sa tayo tumanda na. Sinasabing ito ay sinulat ng ating pambansang bayani na si Jose Rizal, Dr. Jose Rizal, sa edad na 8 taong gulang, at pagpapakita ng kanyang pagkamakabayan sa murang edad. Today, no manuscript linking Rizal to the poem has been identified yet, unless to admit its Rizal was probably too busy playing with his dog and siblings to even thought of making a poem mentioning the word kalayaan or freedom. In the first place, Rizal was already 21 years old when he first encountered such word. In addition to that, the poem was only published 10 years after Rizal's death, leading historians and questioning its authenticity. Poets Hermenegildo Cruz and Gabriel Vito Francisco have since been linked to the poem, but so far the case of the lost author remains an open mystery. Ito ay nagpapahiwatig ng pagmamahal ng isang tao sa kanyang sariling katutubong wika. Ang sinasabing may akda nito ay anay ang pambansang bayani si Jose Rizal noong 1869 nang siya ay 8 taong gulang pa lamang. Madalas na pinapalagay na ginagawa ito ni Jose Rizal ang pambansang bayani ng Pilipinas at sinasabing isulat niya noong 1869 sa gulang na 8 taon at unang tulang ginawa ni Jose Rizal.
Lesson 12: Marcos History and the Jabida Massacre.
Marcos and History. Ferdinand Marcos was the only official dictator that the Philippines ever had since total independence from the United States. The next phase of his dictatorship focused on the creation of the new society, which he called a super society. Si Ferdinand Marcos ang tanging pangulo ng Pilipinas na gumamit ng diktadura. Nilikha niya ang kanyang bagong lipunan at ang sobrang lipunan or super society. As the heir to what historian Ronaldo later referred to as the unfinished revolution of 1898, Philippine President Ferdinand Marcos attempted to portray his government as a revolution in his book, New Society. By doing so, Marcos appropriated the revolutionary metaphor from the radical opposition while also branding himself as a revolutionary. Tinukoy ng isang manalaysay na si Rinaldo Leto ang bagong lipunan bilang ang hindi natapos na revolusyon ng 1898.
Tadhana: The History of the Filipino People. The project started in 1974 and was headed by several historians from University of the Philippines. Marcos cared so much about the project that he allocated 10 million pesos for its completion. The period of the project's take-off coincided with other books intended to justify martial law and the new society. Marcos' plan was supposed to cover the history of the Philippines from as far back as 300 million before Christ era to the present. Of the envisioned 19, only 3 volumes were published. Since Marcos hired top-notch historians, it is only expected that their output will be nothing short of excellent. Ang proyektong ito ay nagsimula noong 1974 na pinamunuan ng ilang historiador ng Universidad ng Pilipinas. Ay pinaglaanan si Marcos ng 10 milyong piso. Tila 3 volume lamang ng proyekto ang naipublish na nangangahulugan na ang proyekto ay hindi natapos. Ang tadhana ay isang librong pangkasaysayan kung saan binigyan diin ni Marcos ang pag-unlad ng kasaysayan ng Pilipinas bago pa ang 16 na siglo. Philippine propagandists tend to glorify the Marcos years by exaggerating the number of infrastructure projects done by the government. Those projects were financed by constant borrowing of money from foreign institutions and undertaken by constructors who were cronies of Marcos despite the continuous increase of highways, expressways, and cultural centers. Hundreds of thousands of Filipinos are still poor and hungry. Noong panahon ni Marcos, ang Pilipinas ang naghatid ng pinakamaraming utang, krisis sa ekonomiya, inflation, kawalan ng trabaho at kahirapan. Sa kabila ng pagtuloy na pagdami ng mga infrastruktura, daan-daang Pilipino pa rin ang mahirap at nagugutom.
The Jabida Massacre. Moros or Muslims in the Philippines had a long story of resistance against foreign rule from the Spanish to the Americans, and later against the Philippine government. All of these regimes have relegated to Moros as second-class citizens. For centuries, and with multiple strategies to this resistance, the Moros' political awakening would come in 1968 during the Marcos presidency and his quest to regain Sabah from Malaysia. Operation Mikada was an attempt to recruit young men for a special mission in Sulu and Tawi-Tawi, Philippines. The recruits were sent to Sulu in late 1967 to be trained
and later they were named the Jabida Unit. While the unit was dissolved, one of the members of Jabida relayed a gruesome story of a massacre, of which he was the lone survivor. Matindi ang laban ng mga Moro o Muslim sa pamamahala ng mga Espanyol sa mga Amerikano. Kalaunan sa pamahalaan ng Pilipinas, isang operasyong ginawa ng Mikada upang muling ihain ang mga kabataang lalaki para sa isang espesyal na misyon sa Sulu at Tawi-Tawi noong 1967 upang sanayin at kalaunan ay tinawag na Jabida Unit. Sa kasamaang palad, isa sa mga miyembro ng Jabida ang nag-relay ng isang nakakatakot na kwento. Ang Jabida Massacre. Mayroong dalawang pinagmulan ng Jabida Massacre. Ang umano'y nakaligtas na pangalan ay Arola na may salaysay tungkol sa insidente, at ang talumpati ni Ninoy Aquino base ng Senado sa kanyang investigasyon sa Sulu. Arola was the key to the narrative that both sides sought to further during the incident itself, and to this very day, readers should be wary of the shifting sentiments and motives from changeable loyalties that shape narratives of polarizing events such as Jabida Massacre. Si Arola ang susi sa salaysay na hinangad pa ng magkabilang panig sa mismong insidente, at hanggang ngayon, ang mga mambabasa ay dapat na maging maingat sa nagbabagong mga damdamin at motibo mula sa nagbabagong katapatan na humuhubog sa mga salaysay na mga pangyayaring nagkakaisa gaya ng Jabida Massacre.